Oh, well, yeah. Don describing your dad just reminds me of we used to have a Jewish woolbuyer come around to our shed, and his name was Liam Ecker.
Mm-hmm. I know him.
Yeah, he used to. Yeah, I suppose he came to our shed probably 10 or 15 years. Same thing, neatly dressed, very smart.
Yeah, it would be.
Yeah. And he worked for several different firms. I know he ended up with Peter Scanlon, but before that I think he worked with Elders. And there was another company which had a strange name. Yeah, sort of quite a long name.
Not Rex Robinson.
No, it was it's like a Swedish firm or something like that. It's quite a long name.
No,
Anyway, yeah, pretty much the same as Don. We used to just work, get our shearing done and get a price and pretty much sweep the floor and send it down.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
In fact, him and my dad
Would have been mates, I suppose.
in the period about 58, they used to go roo shooting together. Cause when the bottom fell out of the wool market, I think they maybe bought a truck together and up to the Marble Bar or something like that.
Yep.
And had a fridge or something on the
Freezer, yeah.
freezer or something.
Yeah.
I don't know how long they did that for.
Yeah, I know Leon used to operate around, a fair bit around Moore and Darien. Quite a few big clients, really.
Mm-hmm.
And we always used to sell a percentage, small percentage.
Sort of oddments or?
No, I think we usually did fleece wool rather than oddments. Just mainly for pocket money and that sort of thing. Because it was, no one really had a lot of cash on them, so it was all going back into the farm, so it was a way of avoiding the bank manager, I suppose. A few of the nicer things in life. Yeah. And I suppose we stopped dealing when Leon, got tied up a little bit with the tax department and investigated and that sort of thing, and so that was pretty much the end of it, really.
I didn't know that he had that.
I think something happened at one of the firms and sort of got investigated and it went on, so a few of the clients had to go down. So that kind of put the end of the cash buying.
Oh, I didn't know about that.
Well, it did, yeah.
There you go.
I remember going to Leon's place when I was a young fella once in North Perth for lunch. That was really nice.
But you told about his son, maybe one of them, maybe both of his sons were champion water skiers.
Okay, that's right, I remember him talking about that, yeah. No, he was pretty proud of his sons from what I can remember, because he sort of told us all about that when we went to his place. Yeah, but he was polite, sort of gentleman type, yeah, nice fella. He was neatly dressed, that was the thing that triggered it for me. Yeah.
Okay. We'll let it go there.
As I remember, you were saying if he's was part of the community or not. Where your dad really fitted in well was in the pubs, and I don't mean this in a derogatory way. And as I remember it, because in the work I was in for some time in the crop spraying business, I used to do a lot of my sussing out of work in the Woburn pub. And your dad would be in there, and I'd be, being young, I'd be not drinking too much, A, because I had to pay for it, and B, because I was trying to talk to various, what I thought were big potential customers, and try and get a bit of work off them. But your dad would be there completely at ease and drinking drink for drink and just being part of the true Australian circle. But he would have actually been the only odd one out. All the rest would have been conservative Australian farmers, and your dad would be there being completely accepted. And of course you bought in rounds, and the round might be as big as 10 or so people, and that was where I saw him a lot. He did go to Carew, and I believe Dalwallinu, and as you said, he was also a member of the Bunting Bowling Club. But certainly, and he wasn't pushing his business at all, whereas I was there because I was on a commission and the boss knew that he was hoping I could sell a bit on that. So that was good to see. And I don't think all other Jewish wool buyers were quite, or even any wool buyers were quite as well accepted or fitted in quite as well as he did.
Mm-hmm.
So, and he was certainly always.
But he was friends with some of the quite well-off people, but he was also friends with some of the people that were very conservative and very quiet, because they all accepted him for what he was and he accepted them for what they were.
Okay.
They were friends because not more than business, because he knew about them and their family, and they knew about, like, you didn't know you were a very bad boy going off the kibbutz, but we did. You know what I mean?
Yeah, okay.
He was part of the thing, and he probably didn't come only at crutching and shearing. He used to call in other times, didn't he?
Yeah.
When he went go past and all that.
Just to keep in touch.
Yeah.
Yeah. So even though it sounds contradictory on one hand that he was at home in Perth on the weekends.
Yeah.
Then if he somehow managed to be part of the community,
Yeah.
that's interesting.
Well, he probably kept in touch and knew what was going on too.
Finger on the pulse.
Finger on the pulse. That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I think he's for him, or what he told me, he had this great dichotomy in his life. You know that he'd have his friends in Perth and the country life, and it was pretty clear cut sort of difference. So it's sort of interesting to hear what you guys are saying. And I'm also interested in the other guys. I'm not just concentrating on my dad.
But certainly Sam Wendy perhaps was nearly as involved in that he would drink in the hotels, and I guess your dad wasn't in there every night, but certainly at Woburn often.
It was APs.
He was there, and because it was only in August, September time, which of course in those days was peak shearing time too, that I'd see him there. And he would have been, if you hadn't have heard his accent, you would have just said, well, there's a well-dressed farmer there, because he would be right in there with the group, and he'd stay right out until closing time, which was 10 o'clock then, and perhaps a little bit more in a place like Woburn that was a little bit lawless, but so he certainly did join right in there, and as you say, it was obviously, like I guess other people had those two distinct lifestyles, and I would say that he really did enjoy it. He must have, because there were some hard drinking farmers, and he would have had to stick with them, and he obviously enjoyed it. I'm sure it wasn't just purely for a mercenary. Like, he didn't do it just to endear himself to people. He did it because he enjoyed the company and the lifestyle and the.
I saw it. I mean, not necessarily with farmers, but when he was sick, and he had visitors, and sometimes, I suppose, especially in the last 10 or 15 years, he was at home a lot more, and you'd have, like the Australian neighbours come around, and I could see he really enjoyed the company, because he could be direct with, maybe in one way, I don't know, maybe he was even more intimate with them than with his old friends of 50 years, because there was this directness that, like eye-to-eye directness, without, he didn't have to be crude, but it was sort of just not beating around the bush. And
that's what
Howard might be able to tell you what went on at the bowling club.
Yeah, but no, certainly that was the thing that, as I keep saying again, that he was just there, and if it wasn't for the accent, you wouldn't know that he wasn't one of the locals, because in a place like Woburn in that era, there would have been no one else. It wasn't a tourist stop. It wasn't an important truck junction like it is now, and it was the hotel was truly a low-class hotel. It was always battling to make ends meet, and it was purely a drinking spot. Yeah, sure, he must have stayed up in the top.
That's right.
But I think probably some days he probably would have been the only person there. But and you didn't get other travellers participating. Because there was a lot of travellers in that era.
The commercial traveller.
Yeah, for all sorts of products, and they didn't mix with farmers, and you could pick them, and they'd be well dressed too. But they didn't talk to the locals. If there was 2 or 3 of them, one perhaps for a clothing manufacturer and one for one of the food companies, because there was a shop every 10 or 12 miles on that line then. There was a lot of those guys, but they would be in a little group in the lounge bar, whereas your dad would be at Woburn. And if you'd have noticed the public bar, you walk in the corner, he'd have been straight in there. I can see him now halfway down towards the dartboard, where there was most room and the biggest group would gather. So whereas I'd be sneaking around trying to get the attention of someone I could sell a bit of spraying to.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And would all the farmers go into there or into the pubs?
No.
Because there was an awful lot of, from what I've heard, like from some farmers, that as opposed to today in that era, I don't know what's happening here. There was a lot more. So before all the farms got gigantic, and with gigantic material, machinery, there were more people around,
and they're all equal.
And well, maybe equal, maybe they weren't. That's an interesting point.
No, I don't feel they were.
But there was an awful lot of social life. There was, there were footy club. There was a footy club in there from Latham, Bunting, and Woburn all the way down.
But then they didn't
and there were
go
all
to
sorts of sports club, and a lot of it's died out.
They didn't go to the club and the pub then. They just went. Everyone went to the pub together.
Yeah, but there was also, and I guess your dad must have realised, I don't know what the percentage would have been, but there was an enormous amount more farms in it. The farms around Woburn probably only averaged under 2,000 acres, whereas now they're 20 to 40,000. And not every farmer was a regular in the pub. There would have been a group that you could have found in there 3 or 4 nights a week, and then there would have been a few who would only go once a week, and that was mostly on whatever day town day was.
Kenny was always in Badgingarra on Wednesdays. I mean in Carew on Wednesdays.
Because that was the town day there. Yeah, so he wouldn't have made contact with all of them, but the numbers thing has changed dramatically since then. It's just the people haven't changed a lot, but places like the Woburn pub now battle to stay in business despite the increased tourist numbers and a lot more truckies, but it really does battle. So,
that's partly because the pub game's changed too, isn't it?
Oh yes, well, of course you can't drive home, because every one of those farmers would have been over 0.08 and would have happily driven home, and only occasionally would they write the car off. But it didn't seem to be a lot of drama. But they certainly would have been all over the limit, but that was what you did then. And probably Woburn was a little bit more hillbilly than places like Dalwallinu, because there was police in Dalwallinu and they just never came to Woburn. That was some sort of unwritten law.
Probably the publican had to give him Spondor.
Yeah, he may have taken the board off.
And Carew?
Well, Carew was about half
a police station?
No, Carew didn't have a police station.
No, the policeman came on Wednesdays.
But it was a little bit more conservative than Woburn. It seemed to be a slightly different slightly different class of farmer.
Woburn had a red light?
Your Woburn had
That's Durfler.
Joy says, yeah, Woburn had
That's
at least
what?
one girl
Durfler
who
was the red light in
I
was
Woburn.
in
didn't
the
know
commercial business, and she used to work in the hotel.
So there
But
we
that-
go. I didn't know this. This is
Yeah,
important information.
But this was for the benefit of the trucking industry that was in its early days. Then nowadays Woburns quite important because it's where they changed from 2 trailers to 3, and one truck brings 2 trailers up there, and a different truck then pulls 3 on. But back then the same truck just went through. But Woburn was the last place where you could get reasonable price fuel, a beer and some comforts in the bed. So you'd have to line up and wait till Durfler had a vacancy. But that was exclusively, as I saw it, for truck drivers. So, yeah, not even the commercial travellers. So, and of course your dad wouldn't have told you about that, but he would have known, because it was very general common knowledge. So, and her dad was a barman in the hotel, and I don't think he organised her work, but
I bet you didn't.
I really don't know. So yeah, certainly the Woburn Hotel would have been an important bit of your dad's social life, and that. So yeah.
And so basically visiting certain farmers and that during the day, even for a cup of tea, that was probably something like parallel to the bar thing. Wasn't.
Yeah, no, that would be.
He would have never gone to see Wilfred or his father in the Woburn pub.
Mm-hmm.
He would have gone to their place and had some of, what was her name? Wilfred's name? Ruby.
Yeah.
Ruby's scones at their place at Gibbeting.
Yeah, Mo Cane.
No
That's the
cane.
name of that farm, you know, because like I said, there was a percentage of farmers in that area who just wouldn't have gone to the hotel at all. Some of the Kales as well, and some of the seemed to be a fair group out around Gibbeting, which was also considered a good wool area because of the large amount of salt lakes, which was good grazing.
Ah, yeah.
Sheep, and because it was all myths then, but in actual fact it's turned out now that salt bush and samphire are excellent, working well with merino sheep. So yeah.
Mm-hmm. That's interesting.
Okay. Salt bush.
Well, oh, contain's gonna run out. No, because all the locks over here. Shit. So.
For guys like Bevan's dad, because normal,
Go on.
and shear here,
Yeah.
but because you're shearing right-handed, but if you're left-hander,
Uh-huh.
we'll pull them out of this one and pull this way and shear here and then down there.
Then go down the chute.
Because if you were trying to shear there, the left-hander then has to pull out of here.
Yeah.
Then it's coming up here and turn right around like this.
Yeah, yeah.
So we cater for left-handers with this stand
With the
here.
1-1, yeah. Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
Can't believe it. It's okay. No, I can't.
That's your working set.
I'm not even sure I'm on target here. Oh, there it is. So across there we have that. Yeah. It's not too.
And sheep live on the whole about 9 years. So 8 colours is just perfect because we can easily tell the difference between a 1-year-old and a 9-year-old sheep.
Mm-hmm. Come on. Conference room.
Conference room.
All the country folk would love to come in here and rip the booze off. Yeah. With a fire. It's not a big deal. Decent grog for 2 days. No. Suppose they're used to 10 o'clock session.
It's just like a, it's just
truck stop is that one? Or where?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. So,
No, well, we're, this is Nel. Nel's background is Yugoslav. So her real name is Nevenka, but you'll only hear Nel. But if you come across Nevenka, that's the same.
Beautiful
I'm
country,
Barry
I believe.
Mcdonald. We farmed in Yuracoin. I've been there all my life, and Nell came there as a young lady back in when. Yes. So yeah, we went on farming,
And this is near New Norcia.
between New Norcia and Wongan Hills.
Okay. So it's in the wheat belt, I
It
presume.
is, yeah, pretty
Okay.
much the wheat belt. And the farming area there, you can do anything. Depends on what it is. That if you love livestock, you can have sheep and cows or whatever. If you don't, as our boys don't like the livestock, they just do all crops. So it's a good area. You know, further out, I guess they have the same range, but yeah, it's all about rainfall really.
And you're in a good area.
Very good. Well, there's a drought this year, and I've come back from the farm last night. It's good. Yeah. Certainly wouldn't say it's a drought.
Olive trees as well now. Yeah, I've heard this New Norcia is connected with olive oil. Connection with Israel.
That's an historical thing, New Norcia, but they would have relatively few olive trees now because the olive farms have just grown. The growth in olive plantations in the last, I suppose, 10 years been phenomenal. You know, there have been companies floated and, you know, so New Norcia is relatively less significant now.
Okay. Anyway, let's get back to the real crux of it. So, you've mentioned Charlie Stool. Were there other Jewish fullbacks? I mean, it's a good area.
There was
maybe even non-Jewish.
Yes, there certainly were non-Jewish, but the characters were the Jews. You know, they were the characters. Maury Sain from further inland. I'd met him, but not done business with him. But Charlie was just a character, a good man and a wise man. Wise not from going to university, but a wise man from life's experiences. And I was going to say to you, the classic was I wanted to buy a little bit more land. And I said to Charlie, I'm thinking of buying a little bit more property. And what do you think of that? And he looked me in the eye, put his hand on my shoulder. He said, Betty, just you be sure you got a chair to sit on when the music stops. And that's pretty meaningful when you think about it. It's all okay when things are going well, but you know, we have our depressions and recessions and things like that. That's in the monetary side of it. And you need to have yourself covered when things go wrong. And another one was that I met somebody, a German person in America, and this was after my marriage had failed and I went off to America by myself. So it was a lady I was talking to, and she was from Germany, and she was over there visiting her sister, and she was very strong on she was left-wing oriented, and what was wrong with communism, and you know, I said, well, you know, I have fairly strong beliefs and indoctrinated that communism, you know, was bad, but I was prepared to listen. She was saying how, well, you know, the good points with communism. Well, maybe I've been a little bit closed on that one. I came home and I said to Charlie, Charlie, what's wrong with communism? Really, what is wrong with it? He said, Barry, it is perfect, but it doesn't work. He was so good at that. And the other one was the Berlin Wall. Or regarded the Berlin Wall, and I said, Charlie, you know, is it so bad? You know, the East and the West Germany, Russia and all that, is it so bad? He said, Barry, they didn't put that wall up to keep people out.
No wonder they put it up though.
They put it up to keep people in. Because nobody wanted to go in other words. And that's exhausted my comments on my
That's
advice.
okay. Those other wall guys, what's the one that used to come around in...
I know who you're thinking of.
Yeah.
You're thinking of Sammy Rater, he came around selling clothing and things.
Okay.
Just.
And did he go into the wall?
Did he? I think he did.
You think he did?
Yeah.
I don't.
See, I think he did.
He was a Freemason, which came to me as a surprise. He came out, and I had just joined Freemasonry, and he said, "You're going to be wanting one of these," and he came out with the Freemason little bag and all that, and I thought, "Hey, how did you find this out?" Of course, if you're in there, I don't know, you wouldn't be a Freemason, would you?
No.
Yeah. Not that there's anything wrong with it,
Yeah.
or why you shouldn't be, but you know, you have to be balloted in, and everybody gets to hear that you want to join, and if anybody disagrees, they tell them you're not allowed in and all that sort of thing. So he didn't know that. Yeah, that's Sammy Ray.
And I think he did become a wall guy. And there was another one also that used to come around home, but we always sold our wool to Charlie. And we did for many, many years. Or, well, every year.
Oh, Charlie was just
we just sold
the
ours.
best.
Yeah. And he was so honest, because if he ever, well, he was one of the honest ones. Schwartz, you know the guy that used to have, the wool guy that used to, sorry, just diverting, in Midland, where he had a big store.
Oh.
Yeah, he would build
Yeah.
someone.
No, you're not quite.
But
it's not
Charlie,
sure.
we sold our wool, the whole 20 years I think I was there. But he was one of those honest ones that if ever he gave you a price and you were happy with it, but if he sold it and got more, he'd always come back and give you the difference.
Oh yeah.
And you don't get too many people like that.
Okay.
Yeah, Charlie was very good like that.
Who was?
But Bill, then he sent someone out to buy wool, but he had the Midland shop. Because I used to
It
go...
was Midland Disposals or
Yes,
something, wasn't it? Yeah, Midland. Yeah,
And right at the, you know, I suspect he has his son would have gone into sort of optics or optician or something. I don't know if you know about that.
Don't know.
I don't know.
So, but you know about Charlie's family, not so much about
Yes.
the other guy.
Actually, yeah.
Oh,
Charlie's, actually, my ex-wife has kept in touch with Charlie's family more than I have. She's been in touch with Manny, and I don't know to what extent. She had kept in touch, and I can give you her address if you would like to contact her.
okay. Could be interesting.
Yeah. In
I
fact,
have to do a lot of research if I keep going
But
in this by man.
I think the only reason Helen stayed in touch with Manny was because Ted worked there.
oh, that's
And
right.
once Manny left and went over east, there was no, I mean, even Ted didn't keep in contact with him.
I don't even know what Manny went into.
He went into,
giftware.
yeah,
Like a
he
shop?
imported giftware,
Uh-huh,
yes.
uh-huh.
Yeah, very
Retailing or
nice.
wholesaling?
Wholesale.
Wholesale.
Scanson Designs.
That's right.
And I have to tell you that Nell's husband and Nell's first husband and my first wife are now together. We've swapped over.
And I think that's the only reason I kept in touch with Manny, because Ted used to, when he leased
Ted
the farm,
is your
Yes.
first husband, yeah?
that he used to work for Manny at St. Clay.
No, that's okay.
Yeah, that's
Well, let's
Hello.
backtrack a bit and we'll ask you about what's your people's history, or did you buy first, or you had family in the area for a while?
Yes, I was born into farming, and my father and my grandparents, there's a book which gives the story. I don't know if you're into that sort of thing. It's just a family. It really isn't. It's a bit distant from where you're looking at. But they had Scottish background, came to South Australia, moved across to Niangara.
Yeah, I think there's a saying. Isn't there a saying with a farm there?
Could be. Could very well be.
Like it's supposed to be very good rainfall there?
Quite good.
Okay. I think I've heard of the saying.
Yeah, no, yes, that'll be pretty reliable down there. And then my grandfather was a bit itchy-footed. He went from farm to farm, and my father remained in Yeracoin, and we've sort of grown up from that.
Okay. And that, so basically your father was the one that settled in the area. And when was that area West Australian, I'm guessing, so correct me if I'm mistaken, the relative proximity to Perth makes me guess that it was probably pioneered a long time ago by West Australian standards.
Yes. I would take some time to work it out. My father was 80, probably only 60 to 70 years ago when Yeracoin was pioneered. They sort of moved out. The Catholic community went to New Norcia, Bishop Salvado, I think, and then there was a strip of land, and I don't know very accurately where it is, but sort of from Tujay north, if there's what they call the Midland Railway Land Company, the government didn't have a railway line from Perth to Geraldton, so this private company, if they built a railway line, they were granted land along the railway line, more or less. It wasn't quite that simple, but there was a tie-up there that they were granted land, and so a lot of that land was held by the Midland Land Company, and then farmers moved out there.
So considerably after the railway had actually gone
followed on.
That would be the same railway that goes through Dalwellinu and Woburn? That's another line.
No, yes, that is the one. That was the Midland Railway. Yes. But then there's a railway line that goes north from Tujay through Yeracoin and stops at Myling, which is still south of Dalwellinu.
Yeah. And
it was a bit unique in that it didn't go anywhere. It just went up and back. That my family sort of arrived there at about the same time as the railway line did. It worked its way up, and there was one family who used to open a store wherever the railway got to, and they moved up. I think they started in Calingary or somewhere, and that was the Borums. And one of the grandsons is, do you know Warren Mead? He's a bit known around town. He's got motor dealerships and Mead's restaurants.
No, I don't know. Where is he from?
Rather upmarket. He's the grandson of this family that moved out on the end of the railway lines. But he's just known. I'm just name dropping there.
I was just trying to think of it. Maybe it was somebody in my dad's address book, but
now,
I don't know.
Yeah, Clay came up with a good idea then, because I told him I couldn't talk. He was saying, get in touch with Ted Dobby. He'd know a lot of war buyers.
He certainly would.
He certainly would. This is a guy that
that's if he goes back enough. Ted. Yeah. Oh, look, it's worth it.
Yeah, he used to be a shearer.
Oh, yeah.
And Clay said that he might know a lot of wool buyers, which he would.
Anyway, we'll take that later. So Barry, would you I mean, I don't know exactly your age. You born.
I'm 68 now.
So which were like
1938.
38. So okay, war. So you wouldn't really have seen the depression. You'd be a bit too young for that. And probably so. Then again, guessing, sort of once you're quite a little boy, maybe primary school, it's post-war, and you probably didn't see the sort of hardships I've sort of heard about with people that grew up in the depression and war era. Again, correct me if that's.
Well, I guess I saw the results of what is called a hardship, but to me it wasn't. It was an adventure.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I lived in a tent
Oh yeah.
with
Okay.
my
Awesome.
parents.
Okay.
That wasn't. They had a home, but they had a property not very far away,
Mm-hmm.
and so we used to go out and put up tents and live there to plant the crop or to clear
Mhm.
some land or something like that.
Was like expansion of property?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So that was, I mean, you would certainly call it hardship now. Then it was a way of going ahead,
Mm-hmm.
and for me an adventure.
Okay.
I mean, that
yeah.
was just great. You know, I just didn't have to wipe my feet, or you know, it was, and there was a water running down a creek, and
That was great.
Yeah.
Yeah. And schooling, what was the school education in the area like, or for you anyway?
When I first went to school, I pedalled a push bike for a little. We were about 3 or 4 miles from the school, so I pedalled off on a bicycle. That wasn't for long. I went for a little while with my uncle in a horse and cart, and then shortly afterwards the person who owned the local store bought an old, what was known as an international utility, and we sat in the back of that. And then as a result, at the close of the war, when you couldn't get vehicles during the war,
Yeah.
and soon afterwards, they purchased an army surplus. It was actually called a signal van or something. It was a rough old thing with some little square openings like that around. And we got in the back of that. It was like a prison cell. And then we followed on, and they bought an old bus from one of the bus companies in Perth, I think, Bean Bus Company.
Oh, yeah.
And so we were really flash then. We had a bus with windows and seats.
And was all your education in the local area, or did you come down to Perth? What sort of high school education did you have?
I did primary school at Yeracoin, at the little school there, and then I went to Northern to the high school, which was a senior high school. It took me through to. I didn't stay right through, but I went to partly through my 4th year.
Okay.
Until the football season finished, and then I went home.
Okay. So Northern, I suppose even then, is considered a fairly big town.
The significance of Northern then, yes, it was relatively, but the significance was that where all the immigrants, well, most, certainly many immigrants went there,
Oh yeah.
because there was an army camp,
Mm-hmm.
and the immigrants, that's where they went.
The first place, first stop, yeah. Okay. So I think my dad as well, yeah.
So I went to school with many, many first-time immigrants. And I met one the other day, in fact, just surprisingly.
That in itself could be a fascinating story.
Certainly.
What about, so now what about, ask you all the same questions. When did you arrive in this, in
I was
area?
born here
Yeah,
in Kalgoorlie.
okay.
I just went to a Catholic school. Came to Perth when I was 14 when my parents passed on.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been here ever since, and that's about it. I haven't had a very interesting life until now.
I'm all talking about mine, yours has been every bit.
I sort of travelled.
Nels wasn't nice because she
No.
lost her parents when
Very
she
young.
was 10 and 12, I think.
13.
So life was tough for her.
And how did you arrive to this particular farming area?
I got a job as a nanny, I suppose you'd call it, wouldn't you? And went up with people that took over the hotel in Yurikon.
Mm-hmm.
And I met my husband there, first husband, and I stayed there.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, so that's typical of Perth girls that go to the country, because there's no women there, so all the guys sort of...
The boys are always waiting. School teachers.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
And your husband had or your first husband had a farm?
yeah, we did. It was about 6 miles from you. From there, yeah, we were all in the same district.
No more, yeah.
More, right.
Mm-hmm. And well, how far does it say from Perth in terms of hours? An hour, 2 hours?
Hour and a
drive?
half.
100, less than 2 hours.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just
I wanted
Is it like, especially say if you go back 50 years, say, which is certainly not prehistory, but was there a sense of isolation being there, or was it sort of close enough to Perth that you sort of didn't feel very isolated?
Well, hearing stories, I didn't come to Perth very often, did you? You used to hop on the train, and that would take nearly all day to get down, but there weren't many people that came to Perth, you know, going from mum and that.
When I was little, so this would have been 38, in the mid-40s, just after the war. A trip to Perth was, I don't know, I seem to want to say about twice a year. And the day before you were to leave, Father would be changing the oil in the car and putting new tyres on, and there were wooden spokes on the wheels, so that he'd be pouring water on those to tighten them up, and Mum would be cooking so you'd have food to eat coming down, and we'd stop and eat on the way down. It seemed like most of a day to come to Perth.
Okay, but say by the 1950s, no. Well, actually, let's ask a question this way. We seem to be talking mainly about you, and Charlie Still's the name that's come up most in terms of the Jewish will bias. When would he have started coming up? I presume he came to Australia after the war. I never
Yes.
wasn't that close to him.
I think it was about
In the 60s.
59. No, the early 60s, because Tracy was only a baby when we started selling wool to him, and she's 45 now.
Mhm.
So I think that was the first time that he came to our area.
Certainly close to the early 60s.
So
Close,
that's
the
62-ish something.
early 60s, I'd say.
Yeah.
60, yeah. 60,
Yeah.
61.
Because actually, I don't know when my dad actually got into it. Like, I know he started in the 50s. Then there was the wool slump. Went off shooting roos, and then sometime, I don't know if it was the late 50s or early 60s, certainly by the early 60s, he got back into the wool game. In fact, like, I don't, my first memories, I don't remember a period that he wasn't going wool buying. I was born in 57, so certainly 58 or something like that. He was shooting roos up in Marble Bar or something. But by the time I have memories, which, I don't know, 3, 4 or something like that, he was certainly already in the wool game. So Charlie probably, so it seems to be that Charlie would have even come to the area even a little bit later.
Well, he
No.
came.
I've just worked
Oh,
out
okay.
as you spoke. Charlie came around about when Dad had the hotel, which was early 50s.
Oh, was it? Okay.
52, 53, 54, something like that.
Mhm.
Because I can remember Charlie reprimanding my father for he used to buy sheep skins. We used to kill our own sheep on the farm, so we would have the skins and we'd hang them, and then they would be saleable.
Okay, yeah.
And that was a thing. The Jewish wool buyers would do that, and certainly Charlie did. And it was always a bit of pocket money.
And do you think, say, like in that slum, would he have stayed in the area, or would he maybe also left the game for a little while till things got
I
better?
don't think
You don't.
so.
You don't
I
think so?
don't think so.
Okay. Okay.
Charlie, as I say, I can't be absolutely sure. No, I really don't think Charlie took time out. I think he came into the area and developed himself. And then once he became successful and financially sound as a result of the wool buying, and rightly so, he was a good operator. Some of the Jewish wool buyers were a bit tough on their prices. They got a name for,
Okay.
you know, making an offer, and you had to go way above, and then somewhere you met in the middle. Charlie was different. He came out with a price. That was the price.
Okay.
And if he got any more for it, as Nell said, he'd bring some money back. And that went down well.
Oh yeah.
Mind you, being a merchant, he was doing well. I mean, he didn't bring it all back.
Yeah. Yeah.
But fair enough, you know. But he was a smart operator.
Okay.
He was really smart. Then he became very successful, and he started on real estate development.
Oh yeah.
And that's, you know, I think Manny was left with the whole city block in Dog Swamp.
Oh yeah. There you go. And would have been swamped there when he bought it.
Just by the swamp.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember.
McDonald Street, in fact, our family name. Nothing to do with us.
Yeah. And who would, and sort of mentioned that he had some competitors. What sort of, do you remember names of guys who would have been?
I can
Yeah.
remember.
So Liam Ecker is a name.
Oh, that's
That's
one.
the name?
That's
Because
one.
I was going to say he was
Yes.
probably a bit north. Okay. So,
No,
okay.
he used to come, but he just wasn't the guy to deal with that
Okay.
Charlie was. He was a small thinker, with respect, you know.
Yeah.
He just wasn't like, he would be one that, ooh, you know, just too much and carry on. Charlie would say, no, you can't, that's more than it's worth, and this is what it's worth, and you trusted him.
We had one wool buyer that came on the farm, I can't recall his name, but he was told not to set foot back on the farm by the two boys ever again, so I wouldn't even know his name.
But he wasn't necessarily Jewish.
No, he wasn't. And I
Was
don't
Leon
think he
Ecker a
was.
German Jew?
Exactly.
He was another
His
name.
wife
See, the
wasn't
names-
Jewish, and I know his sons were big in doing the dentistry, and there were his sons. I remember were great water skiing. They were water skiing champions.
Interesting.
I mean, I went with Dad a couple. You know, sometimes when I was a little boy, I'd go to that place. Where he came from originally, I don't know. I got a feeling that his wife actually was German, but I'm really not sure.
I don't know what made you say
Most of them, well, from my father's friends anyway. There's actually, and there's another I've discovered since I've started taking an interest in the project recently. Yeah, there's a whole previous generation of like depression years. I don't know when they started, maybe the 20s, certainly in the 30s, and up to the war, and obviously a bit beyond. So that I was barely aware of, or really not aware of at all before. You know, in fact, like guys I went through to school with, like from kindergarten onto to you know, there was matriculation, and just in the last month or so, I've discovered, you know, their fathers were doctors and businessmen and stuff like that, and I was the migrants kid, you know, and they were the others, you know, and you know, the smart kids in school and all this, top of the class, and it's only now that I discovered their grandfathers were wool buyers, you know.
Okay.
And one actually very close to my father's region, so I heard wonderful things. I I gave his mother 4 pages of like not exactly a biography, but the relationship between the farmer in Dalwallinu and this guy's grandfather. And I gave it to his mother yesterday. It's a friend of mine.
You're getting a lot out of this, aren't you?
Yes, that was really nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, what's that? I forget this. Okay, yeah, there's also so. If I was going to ask about maybe names from even before the war, we'd be having a bit of problem. Yeah.
I'd have a problem. Do you know that?
I knew it was the guy Hoffman. He went more than Meriden.
I certainly can remember a name Hoffman, but
or Sames maybe. Sames the.
Sames was.
So Maury
He did
Sames.
start in our area, wasn't he?
Well,
But then
he
Charlie.
was. Yeah, Maury Sames was over based more in Darren. He was sort of just the next. As I said, there seemed to be some understanding that they had an area where they worked.
Yeah. Okay.
But I'm trying to think of the older farmers.
Only Patton.
No, Pat wasn't there. But you know, Tom Field is a few years older than I am. And then there's Roy Fordham, probably be the older.
Oh, he would be the one to ask.
Yeah.
How long are you here for?
Oh, another few days.
Oh,
So this is well, I have to decide how far I want to push this project, and then once I go back to work, I mean, it's like 47 hours a week
oh.
between getting snowed under at work and bringing up family. I don't know. It's a problem.
Yes.
But
What do
yeah.
you do?
I'm a police prosecutor, like Mike, basically a lawyer, but I work as a police prosecutor there.
Right.
So quite different. Like you certainly would have got a ticket once. Been taken, not you, the driver taking a load of kids on the back of a ute.
Yes.
These days, you go to court and they make a big fuss
Oh,
of it.
yes.
It's
Yeah.
all fun. Like I used to drive my mum's car up and down the driveway with that.
Oh,
Now, if that was going to court these days, well, they make a big fuss.
yes. And that's
Yeah, there's a big change,
Yeah,
and I'm sorry to see that.
in a way.
Because, as I said, with the living in the tent and that, it was hard, but for a child it's an adventure, and I think that's changed to something I don't understand. And I'd rather it, I think we came up a better way.
The simpler life, yeah.
No, the reason I asked how long you're going to stay is Roy Fordham. We could have got in touch
Well, that's the
with him.
thing, we could get together.
He would be the oldest farmer from up there,
Mm-hmm.
and he would know.
And he's quite astute. I mean,
Yes.
sometimes when they get to the, he'd be 80, is he?
Well, he would be getting close to 80. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, maybe at the end take the names down and we'll see what I'll do with. Okay, and the region you said was pretty much in terms of agriculture was mixed.
Mixed farm.
Yeah, but it would be considered the the wheat belt, or is that a mistake?
Yeah, it would
Yeah,
be.
it's on the western edge of the central wheat belt.
Mm-hmm. But a bit too good to be wheat belt as a region.
Not in soil types, but in terms of rainfall,
Mm-hmm.
it's better. Yeah, because it's closer to the coast.
Sure.
It's just a bit more reliable.
Yeah.
But I won't go on with my theories. I mean, it wouldn't. It hasn't become a more wealthy area because of it. Because you know what happens in life. People get their money easily, so therefore they relax and spend more freely. So it's no more wealthy than some of the harsher areas where there isn't much rain, but they're far smarter and they save. And
Okay.
but it's a good, safe rainfall area. It's a wonderful place to be.
So I visited Wagen a few days ago. Unfortunately, for too short a time. But it seemed to be basically it's sort of maybe classified as wheat belt, but really it didn't seem that it was. It was sort of more Great Southern, smaller farms. It was more exclusively, I don't know if exclusive is the right word, but
Yes.
it was more sheep than grain.
It is, yeah.
And in fact, I came basically outside of one Jewish wool buyer who was probably from the old generation. No, there seemed to be wool buyers around, but none of them Jewish. So it's interesting sort of question mark in my mind why, but it does not.
I think the Jewish people were very good. I mean, we used to use, perhaps not always respectfully, but they would use the term, as I grew up with, oh, he's a bloody Jew with his money.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know whether you've heard that, but that's a saying that, oh, he's a bloody Jew. So Jews were recognised as being very good with money.
Yeah.
As I went to Charlie and said, Charlie, what do you reckon? But with respect, the Jewish people, and they're seen now to be, by me, to be people who have more dedication, more concentration. They haven't just taken the easy way as a nation. I can't go into that anymore, I've never been there, but, and I say that, as I say, with the utmost respect, because the Jews I've met, well, Charlie in particular, is just such a great guy. And I'm sorry I didn't know your dad.
Yeah, but that Bill guy, he used to have 3 or 4 Jewish wool buyers because he used to send them out. And I know once there was 2 of them from his...
Well, someone called Bill Scanlon?
Bill...
Now there was a Scanlon,
that
because
wasn't
Peter
him.
Scanlon was a chemist in Morley.
Uh-huh.
No, that wasn't him, it was Bill Schweislate or Schwa...
I don't know.
But he used to have about 4 that he used to send to different areas.
Because I haven't heard of him.
Okay.
That's interesting. Because most of them worked with my dad included, as far as I know, they worked with some in the 50s and 60s with a guy called Rex Robinson.
No, that was a name.
No, this
But
guy
He had
had...
a wool store.
Yeah, this guy, well he did, because we sold wool a couple of times to Bill, because I used to come down and collect the cash from him when I was coming down from the farm. And he'd had 4 guys that he'd sent to different areas. He himself wasn't a wool buyer, I don't think.
Yeah.
He had a big shop, big
Store.
store that sold all farming equipment.
Mm-hmm.
But he used to send people from there, because I know I came a couple of times and got money.
I'll have to get the phone book up. You're close, that
Yeah,
Schleifer or
something.
Slater or...
But he had about 4 guys.
Mm-hmm.
He worked for Midland. You know where Midland is.
Yeah. And I'm interested, when touching on the thing about being paid and all that, the system must have changed. Because as far as I know, say, especially if you're talking about clips rather than odd minutes,
Yeah.
as far as I know, sort of the idea of that some of the wool buyers started getting commissions, working on commission, rather than buying for themselves and then selling to the wool store. I think that commission idea came in sometime around the mid-60s.
Yes, it did.
So,
I remember that.
Yeah, and how did it work before, from your point of view? Like before that, let's say if a wool buyer bought the clip off his own back, and then how did that work from your angle?
Well, from our angle, I suppose I'm telling tales out of thing. We used to sort of get a fair bit of, well, we got all cash from them.
Mm-hmm.
But then, no, we didn't. That's telling people get about 1/3 cash.
Yeah, that
and
makes
we'd
sense,
keep
yeah.
that. And then the rest would get by a cheque and goes into the bank. And of course the taxation department didn't know about that. And
Yeah.
same as when they were crutching, a lot of people just sold the crutching,
Mm-hmm.
majority for cash.
Yeah.
And
And
odds
odd
and
ones and
ends,
stuff,
yeah.
yeah.
But I know a lot of them would sell their wool, fair bit of it cash.
Okay.
And so that was going in your pocket without,
For holiday money.
yeah. And then it did go
Ordnance
into
went
commission,
for
didn't
cash,
it?
but the people who bought the larger clips would...
But I'd always give you their bit for cash.
And as far as working for a commission or whatever, I think Charlie would choose between the two if he.
Well, he used to buy it and take it to Perth and sell it to someone, didn't he? And he'd always get,
I can't remember who he worked with. If the name was mentioned, but I mean, it's what you call the bigger buyers down there. If the name was mentioned, I'd probably just look up on blank on that one.
Oh, okay. I don't know. I heard what some of the names I heard, which I think more 60s, was ICL, West Wolves.
West Wolves was a big one, I think.
And I heard some story mentioned about a company that went belly up, and just before they went belly up, they started. They wanted to buy. The banks wanted them to buy as much as they could, so the bank would have a bit of something
to work with.
Yeah, and they went on and sort of paid a penny a pound more than what it was worth, and then the farmers didn't get a red cent.
Yeah,
I don't know. You didn't hear about anything like that?
No,
I would have heard about it, but that happened with various merchants within farming. There were some would come out and they'd buy grain, and that happened on occasions, the same sort of thing. It happens in industry, all industry, I suppose.
It's to lose a clip that way, or the payment on a clip. It's a fair whack of money for a person that's trying to raise a family or something.
would it be something like that, no? Yeah, here's your glasses. Very similar to that. No, here, that's it.
Schwenbeck,
No, not Schwenbeck.
Schwarzer,
Schweitzer.
Schwenke. No, that doesn't ring any
Okay.
bells with me.
Well, it does with me, so I don't know. Only for the fact that I was involved then with the...
Yeah, look, I know
Yeah.
that Bill somebody, but I can't put that together.
And it starts with Schwerter something.
Yeah. It's a pity you, like if you were staying longer or coming back,
Get a few
you've
people
now got
together.
me thinking, you see, and I could come. Mind you, we've still got email,
Exactly.
and I'm
But you
sure
could've-
from time to time as I pick up on something, I can let you know.
But the thing is, if
Yeah.
we had have known, you could have got Roy and Tom and all them to come out, and you could have all sort of, you know, had 3 or 4.
I mean, if you feel that you've got a couple of hours before you go, let us know. And these are people who would be quite happy to come and sit around and have a coffee for an hour or two,
Well,
if you're interested.
No, I'm still interested because, well, I haven't decided how far I want to push this idea, but I can, well, as a friend of mine suggested, I can keep sort of going on a correspondence basis, or I might sort of even find other people that are living here who are interested, and maybe they'll take it on. Because, well, you know, these days how it is, the attitude to local history has changed from
Yes.
maybe since Albert Facey, I don't know,
Yeah.
that the attitude to local history has changed, so that maybe there could be 1 or 2 people that maybe be interested to push on for where the point I've reached. Let's see about that, but I'm certainly interested in getting those names. What if, you know what, I'll even cut straight to the quick type thing. One of the things, as I basically sort of touched on, I think before we even put the camera on, sort of interested to sort of gauge people's opinions as to how much these guys who were part of the community, and it's not necessarily, you know, saying no is just, you know, as legitimate a response, and well, I'll give the example, say, of my father, and a lot of them were basically similar in that he would go to the country on Monday morning, come back Thursday night. in the old days, it was even longer periods. They would go 10 days, a week to 10 days, pre-war. Vehicles were worse. And so on the one hand, he would be for at least three decades, staying almost always in the same part for half a week, a good part of the year, most of the year, and sort of how much was he part of the community or wasn't he? I'm getting varied responses. So some, what do you think, say, with respect to Charlie? How much was he or not part of the community?
He was very much a part of the community in his role as a wool buyer.
But he always...
if he got to hear that the children were making some money to have a playground or some books at school, he would be the first one to go for his money and here, take this. He was just wonderful like that. But he, like your father, I think he actually had a room at the hotel. That was his room, and he would have a sort of a program similar, that he'd be up for 3 or 4 days and return to Perth, and I guess on the Friday negotiate the on-selling of his week's work, more or less. Of course, in those days, in the early days of the wool wire, the shearing was very much concentrated in the winter and spring. Well, now it's kind of all the year round. So that's different. And it's far less concentrated now.
Okay. So that means
might change. Might have changed it.
Do you think that meant that he was only in the country or in this particular region from the end of winter through spring till the harvest season? Harvest season.
Yeah, I would just say that would have been a concentrated period, and other times he would perhaps be less often called by.
Well, it's only twice a year that he'd come up, was after seeding.
Yeah.
So he'd have about 6 weeks where he was there, continuously, and then he'd come crutching time, which would have been about March. Is that when crutching was?
Yeah, around about that. There was
between February and March, when the kids came back to school, and then he'd be there July till September, and that would be about it.
What was after seeding?
That was shearing.
That was
planted
shearing.
the crop, and then you did the real shearing.
Okay, sorry. So June, I suppose, was seeding.
Yeah, and July,
August,
June,
May, June, July was seeding, and then sort of July, August, September was
shearing.
But that changed. We changed to shear in March for various reasons. That she could look after the little ones better.
Yeah. When would he have quit? 70s? 60s?
When did he cease to be a wool buyer?
Or come up to?
He was still there in 75, 76, because I left there and he was still, not as much, but he was still buying wool. Because the reason I know that is when I went to Yugoslavia in that year, he was still buying wool. Now, I don't know how long after 76 he was there, because I left up there then.
Charlie's health failed. I think that was what took him from his routine in the country. His health failed. But he was the sort of guy, he was just a part of the scene, he had to do it. And Dora had her separate life in the city with her old ladies and bowls and
fundraising,
fundraising, and Charlie, he seemed, he had his people, he had us out in the country, which were his family, and he appeared to really enjoy coming out and taking part in the
But it'll be mid-70 to early, to about 80 that he would have retired. because I don't think he bought much wool after that.
Mm-hmm.
And he died,
You see,
About 10 years
during this
ago.
time, his real estate interests were growing. My brother actually is an architect, and he did work with Charlie in developing his property, drawing up his property in Dog Swamp there.
Dog Swamp would have been in the 70s. I was in high school in the early 70s.
Okay,
And I remember going, you know, to Hungry Jack's or Kentucky Fried Chicken, whatever was there, would have been in the 70s.
Well,
At the shopping centre would have been up by early 70s.
not as big as
I
now.
can't relate to that.
I was just thinking
Charlie began, remember he put that front section, he built
and that
himself
was
a
in the
nice unit, 2 floors of nice building for unit or whatever you'd call it for himself, and then he had these rentable flats, and then he did another section further out the back, and then he eventually, I think he owned all within the street, and he put rows of homes and that's when my brother
and that was in
Charlie.
the mid-60s.
His architect was
No, that was the mid. So
that
I'd say
guy
he would,
who fled the country for a while. He's back now, I think.
he would have, no, but he would have
So-
retired from Wollbine about 75, 78. Between 75, I'd say.
It's interesting actually. I mean, on one hand, you know, he had investments. He apparently was quite successful. You know,
Very much.
as a businessman, even in the urban world, more urbane world of Perth, of the big city, and on the other hand, you're saying that he seemed to have this great attraction for the country.
He did, and people just, he was respected by everybody.
Yeah, people
I
like him.
think.
One little thing I thought of, that the children, when he'd arrive on the farm, it was almost an embarrassment for us. Our little ones would run out to get their chocolate. Charlie would reach behind the seat of his truck and bring out a little chocolate, and as little ones would embarrass you. Mr. Stool, if you forgot, Mr. Stool, if you've got a chocolate for me.
Kids, yeah, exactly.
But no, he would have retired, getting back to retirement. It was between 75 and 80.
Would have been, I mean, I remember as a pretty, fairly diminutive, but pretty trim sort of guy. Not.
Yeah,
Yes, he was a small, wiry person.
So
Very
would
healthy.
Very.
would he have
very
been in the
health-conscious.
would he have spent much time in the pub in the evenings?
No.
Not drinking alcohol.
He'd have his
No,
meal in the
why?
pub, and if there anyone there and they'd see him,
Mm-hmm.
they'd always ask him for a drink, but he would always have a soft drink.
Yeah.
Or,
He's
He never
not the
drank
sort of
alcohol.
person that would lean over the bar.
No.
He was too active for that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't picture Charlie in a hotel at all.
No, but he did say after a meal, and if someone saw him there, they'd say, Charlie, come and have a drink.
Mm-hmm.
But he would always try to avoid that.
Okay. And what was the communal life like in the region? Sort of. I've heard from other places, like more urban, in the till the modern period when farms started amalgamating and all that, and people, there was a lot less population. There was quite an active social life.
Oh,
Yeah.
yes.
I was going to lead on to that earlier on. Back when I was young and when Charlie first was coming out, and your father, I'm sure, similarly, where we had our own life. I think I started by saying way back, we only came to Perth twice a year. Now the children come down
Twice a
every
week.
weekend to go to the OBH for a beer. But back in our time, no, we had our own sports teams, dances, not always in our own town, but nearby. And the city didn't play much of a part at all.
Mm-hmm. So that, in fact, sort of the that's the sort of the maybe paradox. That's probably not quite the right word, but so for like people like Charlie and my dad would maybe they would spend maybe half a week in the country, sort of itinerant or semi-itinerant way, but they weren't part of that social life, which sort of
No.
probably wouldn't integrate them really into the community or.
No.
No.
Well, not Charlie anyhow.
Mhm.
As I say, I'm sorry now I didn't know your father because I could give a more meaningful comparison. But Charlie was known by everybody. He was a part of the weekday life.
Mhm.
We all knew him. He was always the character. But you wouldn't see him. You know, I just don't remember him being out. You know, I picture him going back to his motel room and it was probably hotel earlier on.
No, motel. Then he'd go over to have his meal at the pub at night.
Yeah, which was in the same building.
Mhm.
Then if he didn't see anyone,
But
he'd always
he
try
would,
to avoid people so he'd
yeah.
get to bed.
he had a liver
Mhm.
problem.
Uh-huh.
He couldn't use alcohol.
Mhm. Mhm.
And in fact, I think that's what took his life in the end.
Mhm.
His liver. He couldn't have fatty foods.
No.
But he, I would have thought that you would see Charlie on the phone at night.
Mhm.
I picture him being on the phone.
He
in
did
his
say
room.
that. Yeah,
I
he's
would,
had too
I
many
would
phone
think
calls to
he'd be,
make.
he would be on the telephone ringing people he might want to see tomorrow, or
Oh yeah. He would do it that way.
Oh,
I would think so.
He didn't just turn up.
no. He turned
I
up to
don't
our
think
places.
so, but I would say our two families probably had a closer relationship with Charlie than most. There were others who were, the Brennan family were, they were very close to Charlie, but we weren't the only ones, but certainly closer relationship.
Would he have sort of maybe if he was passing by, you know, pop in for a cup of tea or something,
Oh,
Yes.
without connection to the wolf?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
oh,
He'd,
yes, he'd call by.
he'd
He
always.
liked us young people.
Yeah.
I think he enjoyed that.
Mhm.
Because, you know, I think there was some sense of, gave him some sense of meaning that when I said to him, Charlie, what do you think? I'm wanting to buy some land, what do you think? You know, I would, if I went out there now, it would be nice if somebody, in fact, a chap that used to work for me said to me yesterday, he said, I was only thinking of you. He said, I want you to come down and tell me what you think. I was nearly going to ring you, ask me why his crop wasn't growing properly. I felt good about that.
Mhm.
And I think Charlie would be the same.
Mhm.
But Charlie would call in for lunch at our place, whether he was buying wool or not.
Yeah.
You
Okay.
know, once, and if you didn't see him every second, like 3 or 4 times a week when he was there, you'd think something was wrong with him. But who's that kind of person?
I can imagine. I'm sort of getting this sense from the people I visited. You know, it's usually, you know, especially I think people that say my dad had a close relationship also. There's sort of this, you know, it's almost cliche, but when you feel it, it's not. You know, it's sort of, I can't put it any other way, but it's sort of country hospitality, which
That's
very, you know, it's when you're on the receiving end, it's a great thing.
yes.
And I gather there's also the element, you know, these guys, you know, I think the hospitality, you're meeting people that are certainly not stupid. Nothing like the Dad and Dave caricature, you know. And these guys aren't too stupid, and probably sort of sharing of different worldviews, different experiences.
But also what was good about the wool guys, there was a place, I don't even know the name now, in Mount Morley, I don't know whether you ever came. the wool buyers and different business people would go down there, either there or Charlie's Place or someone, and we used to go most of the time, and they used to have functions. They would all get together.
Yeah.
And it was in Mount Lawley that a couple of times I don't know if you came, and I'd have barbecues.
For the Jewish community, maybe.
Yeah, well, it was for the Jewish community, but as I was saying, they'd all get together, you know, even though there might have been
That's probably a
rivalry.
bit of Dora's fundraising too.
Well, it's Dora's and the others, but they were sort of, you know, from the country, and we knew, as I said, a few of them.
I didn't actually ever
Yeah.
take part in that.
Yeah, we did.
I'm not surprised.
And it was just all the, so your dad might have been there, one of these gatherings, I don't know. But I know there was a lot of the, you know, different ones like Murray and the other one we mentioned, and quite a few, Kessel and them. And it was twice a year they used to gather there, and we went each time.
It was fun. Maybe there's a Maccabean, sort of like I suppose it's like other ethnic groups where you would have.
Possibly.
That's what I'm guessing. A centre.
Yes.
That's like, and we used to call it the Maccabean because there was sports and school. There was a school. There's still a school there. Anyway, I'm just guessing. That was in your time. It still is in your time.
That's right. This was, as I said, the only gatherings I knew was at Charlie's, and because Dora used to do a lot, I can't think of the charity for the Jewish.
Wheats or something, National Women.
Yes.
Probably Wheats, I was guessing.
And then the one in Mount Lawley used to have a different one, you know, sort of. And I think in those days it was a lot of money. It was $50 or $60 or something. You know, in those years it was. But people just went, and they were sort of all the country boys, because Charlie says, you know, just jokingly, oh, well, this is my customer, you're not to go there. And it was just good joshing about them.
This is curious, like something I heard from someone else, and then maybe you can sort of fill in. There's nothing to with your particular your experiences, but maybe you can explain sort of something I didn't understand. So this a guy called Johnny Shine. He died in early 50s, and he worked in somewhere in the Wallingu region. And his daughter said that even after he died, for a number of years, farmers would send down the commission to him. And it wasn't until I sort of got out of the car that it doesn't seem to make sense to me. Does that make sense in some way to you?
I haven't.
Maybe if that's in the clip to a shed or something, then I can understand.
Yeah, I think they might have
Yes,
still
they
been
probably
set.
kept
Yeah.
the same train of trade. That could be.
I think that might be.
I
And
certainly
that
haven't had that experience myself, but
But then that leads me to believe if they did that the commission, you know, it's still sort of in that vein.
I certainly wouldn't
Yeah.
say, oh, that wouldn't happen.
No.
Because you touched on people in the country who made you feel welcome, their hospitality and that. You know, it isn't that country people are any different or better, potentially, but it's the product of their surroundings. You know, out in the country, and as the years have gone by, the isolation has become less and less. But, you know, there used to be people, like in your father's and Charlie's time, when they stayed in a hotel. But there was a time when they would stay in the homes of people they'd met. And you would get an insurance salesman or the various other people who would be representing their companies, who would stay. You know, if you were there for a meal, you were invited. Because there wasn't the local deli, there wasn't the local hotel in many cases. And that's just what you did if you were there around about that time of the day. Well then, you joined in and had a meal. It didn't make, it not because the country people were any different, basically, than, like, potentially
Mm.
different. But the situation was such that that's what they had to do to keep in touch with people.
I think also the communal network of dances and stuff like that, and the social activity was maybe more intense in a certain way than in the city, because the circumstances sort of pushed you. You had to be self-reliant
Yes.
socially and do things yourself. It wasn't some guy making a quid out of it who sort of had a business interest. You had to do it yourself.
That's right.
For a dance, they'd get together, and the money to go in the door was just to pay for the band. You had to pay for those. Although sometimes the locals would learn to play something, and that's how it all began. A school teacher would come into the district who'd learned to play a piano, and somebody else would play the drums, and that was basic. And then it moved on, and of course the coffee was made in a big
Copper.
yeah, and the farmers would bring the milk
Do you
from
know what a
their
copper
cows.
is?
No.
It was what they used to wash their clothes in the olden days and boiled and just
Ah.
made it
Before washing machines.
Before washing
Yeah, yeah.
machines.
And it was,
So
what it was some of them were cast iron and others were made with brick, with a fire underneath, and the container was made of copper, and it was possibly that round
the size of a washing machine.
and that
yeah.
deep. Yeah, the size.
No,
of
so
a
I
washing
remember
machine.
seeing certainly maybe a disused one, but as a child, yeah.
Hmm.
And,
that-
and what, it had a tap or something at the bottom?
some had
Some
a
the
tap.
flash
Oh, they
ones
just
did.
laid
They, yeah, usually we weren't.
Just
We
scooped
didn't
it
have
out.
the
We
fancy
didn't have
one.
the
We,
tap. You get
but yeah, they,
Well, so, but then not instant coffee. I just thought,
no, well, I suppose. Oh no, it was that in a bottle.
in a bottle coffee.
Yeah, you poured it in. It was a
Oh, yeah.
liquid.
Liquid
chicory, like chicory coffee.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but
coffee
you
and
didn't have
chicory
anything
and,
else like that then.
And it was milk, and somebody in the district would be good at it. My father, he was good at the coffee, and he was good. He could make a flow because he put salt in it, and that was good. So that was his job, and Mrs. So and So
Make
was good at
scones.
scones, and the other ladies would make sandwiches, and someone was good at a sponge cake, and that's what the community did. And Darryl Waters was good at making the floor slippery for dancing. He used to put Wheaties on it. Yeah, just that's the community. They all, and then some other person would bring in the wood to put under the copper. Others would come in before and sweep up and tidy and put the seats around, and then the next day it was another social event. They'd come in and they'd clean up and put everything away, and that was what it all involved.
Well, how I mean, you mentioned there's other salesmen and people that are from out of town that would come around. What was the similarity or difference in the relationship, say, between the relationship with Charlie as opposed to other reps or whatever that would come around?
I think they probably got together. They probably in the